Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. Marriage demolition. I, 32M, just discovered my wife, 30F, cheating in our marital bed a few hours ago. Right now, I'm holed up in my dad's fishing cabin trying to wrap my head around what I do from here. I feel destroyed and worthless. I feel anger due to that rage. My entire life just got flushed down the toilet and I have absolutely nobody to talk to. The one person I thought I could talk to just betrayed me and tried to lie about all of it. I just scared the hell out of 3 people, one of which was me. If the cops aren't looking for me right now, I'm lucky. If they are, I'll deal with that when I'm forced to. I work in construction, demolition to be specific. The crew I work with travels often, and I had been gone 10 days out of the 14 I was supposed to be gone. Due to rain, very difficult to blow up wet things, and the forecast I decided to catch a plane back home until I was certain we could work again. The flight I took didn't get in until midnight. I wanted to surprise my wife, so I didn't let her know I was coming. I drove the 45 minutes from the airport to our house. 8 years ago, my wife found some beautiful acreage far from any other homes through her job in real estate. 2 years later I was finished building our house, which we have loved ever since. We have a 4-car garage, so any cars parked in front is unusual. A black SUV I didn't recognize made my heart sink. I instantly knew. I mean, I hadn't sensed any troubles with our marriage. We hadn't had any fights, our sex life was great and frequent. But I knew somehow right then and there what I'd find once I went in. If the car had belonged to a relative of hers who was visiting, she would have let me know. Part of me hoped it belonged to a female co-worker who had a little too much wine during a visit and needed to sleep it off. But that would have been highly out of the ordinary. I sat outside the house for at least 15 minutes thinking things through. But I parked my car about 6 inches from the driver's side of the SUV, which was parked beside a retaining wall. Whomever it belonged to wouldn't be entering their car to leave without my say or breaking out a front or back window. I cut off my car and entered through the back door via the deck. I have a concealed carry weapon permit for a gun. I had put on my holster before getting into my car at the airport and driving home. I wasn't afraid for my life. But I was afraid of losing my temper and taking the life of someone else. Walking into my house, everything was quiet. At first, I didn't think anyone was home. But with a finished meal for 2 on the table and a sink full of dishes, I knew something was up. I calmly walked down the hall to our bedroom and slowly turned the knob. I pushed the door open but didn't hear any commotion or movement at all. The room was pitch black dark. I walked over and turned the light on in the bathroom. When I turned around, there was my wife completely naked laying on top of some naked guy I'd never seen in my life. I was crushed. It felt like someone had just laid a 100-pound boulder on my chest. I felt tears well up in my eyes. But I knew tears were pointless and would do nothing to help the situation. I pulled out my phone and began recording. I walked around the bed videoing the pile of flesh in front of me. It began to sink in that my marriage was over. I realized all of our property would be divided evenly even though I have been 100% faithful. I suddenly realized the house I built with my own bare hands would have to be sold when we divided assets in the divorce. Being physically betrayed felt worse than any pain I could have imagined. Knowing I was getting ready to be financially gutted too nearly made me lose my shit because it seemed so unfair. But I knew damn well I was done with her and would never touch her defiled body again. I was disgusted by what I saw, but mostly at my wife. In my mind she had gone from sweet, devoted wife to alley crack whore in the span of 15 minutes. Neither moved at all. I was fairly certain they were both passed out drunk. Since the house was going to need to be sold, I suddenly didn't care about any damage to the house I'd worked so hard on. I pulled out my .45 and just looked at both of them betraying me in my own bed. For a second or two I contemplated shooting her, knowing those bullets would pass right through and kill him as well. But I came to my senses and realized neither were worth getting the electric chair over. And despite the hurt I was feeling, I knew I might want to keep on living after all was said and done. So, I pulled back the hammer of my gun, lifted the gun into the air aiming to my upper right and fired off 2 rounds into the ceiling. They both woke instantly. She was trying to push off of him to turn around. He shoved her off of him and into the floor when he suddenly locked eyes with me. Fear doesn't adequately describe the look in his eyes. But compared to the sheer terror in my wife's eyes, he looked rather calm. She tried to tell me it wasn't what it looked like, so I fired around through the bedroom closet door. She shut the duck up really quickly while he still hadn't said a word. They were each seated on opposite sides of our bed with the sheet pulled up to their necks. I asked the guy who he was, and he said his name was Marcus. I asked my wife how they knew each other, and she explained he owned his own real estate company. Then I asked how long the cheating had been going on, because I had been totally clueless my wife was cheating. She had the audacity to claim that was the first and only time they had slept together. So, I fired 2 rounds into the bed's headboard between them. They both began crying and begging me to stop, so I asked the question again. To my surprise, Marcus answered 6 months. It pissed me off, but at least I knew the truth. I asked my wife when she stopped loving me, and through tears she lied and said she never stopped. I fired 2 rounds into the bathroom on her side of the bed and she began screaming as glass from the mirror shattered all over the counter and floor. I told her she was a lying, worthless whore, and I was done with her lies. She was clearly having a panic attack, with good reason. But at the moment I didn't care. I asked the guy if he was married. He replied that he was. I asked if he had children that would miss him. He swallowed before admitting he had 2 children. I told him I truly appreciated him showing me that my wife is a tramp before we 2 had children together. But I asked him if having sex with a cheating slut was worth losing his wife and kids over. He begged me not to tell his wife. I told him to shut up because at that moment she had about a 50% chance of her ending up a widow. For the next 15 minutes I paced at the foot of the bed with gun drawn, just trying to think. I knew holding them there against their will could be deemed me taking hostages. I knew I would have to eventually let them go. I told my wife to get up and go get her car keys. She got out of bed and began to reach down and get her clothes off of the floor to put back on. I told her to stop, clothes weren't needed, and again to get the keys. She walked down the hall and brought back her keys, handing them to me still crying. I removed the house key and told her she wouldn't be needing it anymore. I know she wanted to protest I couldn't do that and that legally she was right. But a .45 tends to make debating legality moot. I then told Marcus to stand, get his keys and wallet out of his pants and to follow me. I led him outside toward his car where I punched him in the face repeatedly until his nose and mouth were bleeding. After I moved my car so he could get into his SUV, I went back, picked up his keys, told Marcus to stand up. I explained he could go home right then and there to confess everything to his wife, or she'd hear from me within 48 hours with all the evidence of his cheating I had recorded. I also explained he had 45 seconds to get off of my property or a coroner would be escorting him off of the property. The fact he had no clothes on seemed a secondary issue at the moment. He got in his car and peeled away before I counted to 25. I went back inside where my wife had put on a robe and was seated at the kitchen table. I went to the bedroom, picked up her cell phone and brought it to her in the kitchen. I asked if she wanted to call her parents, or her sister to pick her up. She refused. I even asked if she'd like to call the police. I think she anticipated us discussing things, to clear the air, so she said no. She began to try and explain, but I stopped her yapping and told her we were done forever as far as I was concerned. I explained our home was no longer her home and she needed to get in her car and drive anywhere that wasn't our house. I explained I no longer felt any love for her at all after what she'd done and there would be no second chances. She began to apologize, cry, and plead. 2 rounds fired into the double oven and 1 into the fridge brought blessed silence. Having your nearest neighbor over 2 miles away has its benefits. I explained to her at that moment I did not care if I lived or died and that she had totally destroyed me with her behavior. I also explained that all love I ever had for her turned to hate the minute I saw she and Marcus naked together. If I could have Thanos snapped her from existence and my memory at that moment, I would have. I told her I was barely maintaining my composure with the feelings I had of loathing her. I said it would be best if she went to the garage, got in her car, and drove away forever. Through tears she went out in the garage, got in her car, and left. That was about 5 hours ago. Realizing I may have committed a crime or two with my reaction, I didn't want to deal with any cops that happened to show up. I turned off everything and locked the doors before going out and getting into my car again. My dad owns a fishing cabin he and his buddies use fairly often. I drove here and used the hidden spare key to let myself in. It was far too early to call anyone when I got here. I decided I needed a drink and I'm about a quarter way through a bottle of my father's Balvenie scotch. Dad is going to be pissed about that until I tell him what my wife did. Plus, I'm pretty certain it's the bottle I bought for his birthday last month. I really don't know what to do. I've read through posts here and other subs on Reddit looking for answers. But most seem to be people trying to figure out if their spouse is cheating. I already know the truth. Well, I know as much of the truth as I want to know. The reasons for infidelity all ring hollow. Other posts seem to be some strategies to get a cheater back. Why anyone would want to get back a cheating spouse is beyond me. But I want a divorce. I want it in my favor and as fast as I can get it. She doesn't have the option to pick me ever again. I'm a human, not a carnival prize. I want to remove her from my life and burn any reminder of her in my life. I don't want to ever see or hear from her again. Can everything be taken care of by lawyers? I have money to get things started. What I don't have is the time, energy, and patience to be dealing with this bullshit. 8 ducking years of marriage down the drain. 8 years that I now consider one huge lie because after what I just saw, how can I accept anything she has ever said to me as truth? 8 years of my life wasted on an evil bitch fraud. Part of me is wishing I had shot them both and just taken my own life. But that may be the scotch talking. Jesus, I have to get my shit tested just to make sure that whore didn't give me anything. Actually, I've pissed away a decade on her now that I think about it. Her actions have invalidated my life and negated any value to my time with her. The only thing I will be taking from this marriage is that honesty and loyalty are things from the past. The only thing forever about any relationships anymore is herpes. That shit is forever. Love and marriage are all ducking lies. Really down right now. Some I'm sure are already viewing me like some knuckle-dragging Neanderthal for responding with violence and threats. I also know some will give me grief for the use of one of my guns. I didn't shoot anybody, and the bedsheets were already soiled before I fired a shot. If bullet holes reduce the price the house can be sold by a few thousand, I can live with that. I just can't deal with this shit. Part of me wants to just eat a damn bullet and give up. The life I had is over and it isn't coming back even if I wanted to. People are going to say I dodged a bullet. Irony, not having kids with my wife and finding out she's disloyal. It doesn't feel that way right now. I go from crying uncontrollably to rage like I've never known. Either I face this or just end it all. And right now, the second choice seems like the better option. Maybe if I pass out and get a little sleep, things won't seem as bad. But I doubt it. The weather forecast looks like things will be clearing up enough to work in a few days, so I will need to be on a plane the day before. I don't like the region we are working for various reasons. But part of me just wants to stay there when the job is done and not come back. Part of me wants to figure out where I want to start over if I want to even deal with starting over. How do I decide what lawyer to get? Is there a rating system online for legal assistance on Yelp or some other site? I hate damn lawyers. Members of the scummiest legal profession. Now I have to find the most hardball lawyer I can find. Sorry for the wall of text. It wasn't as cathartic as I hoped. But nothing is going to remove this heartache anytime soon. What the hell am I supposed to do? What is the point of doing anything? The person I was focused giving my all for is gone forever, and tonight I learned never existed. I wasn't perfect by any means. But I was faithful. I was never abusive. She'd never heard me really yell until tonight. I was a good husband. I liked being married and faithful. But for every good guy out there, some slut is just waiting to get her claws into him so she can ruin his life for her gain. Duck this life, duck my soon-to-be ex-wife and duck relationships. I'm just rambling now. Guess I'll go to bed. When I wake up, I guess I will call my parents and fill them in on what went down. I'm just in shock and I've never had heartache like this in my life before. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Marriage Demolition Update. The night I tried to post to Reddit, I didn't think anything had been posted because it said the post was awaiting moderator approval. But over the last month I have gotten periodic notifications on my phone about the post. I signed in to see the comments on the first post and a few people asking for an update. I'm honestly not sure if things could have gone much worse for me after posting if I'd tried. And yeah, I'm sure some will say what I do went too far, was over the top, or whatever. It seems the law agrees with those people. This update will be a joy for the anti-gun commenters. So let me get this out of the way first so those people can be overjoyed with what I'm facing. I was arrested for communicating threats, felonious assault, assault with a deadly weapon and a few misdemeanors, felonies that don't really matter. If convicted of the felonies, even with no criminal record, if found guilty I could get over 25 years behind bars. I'm not likely to be sentenced to that long a time in prison, but it is possible. Amazingly, if I'd actually shot Marcus or my wife in a fit of rage, I'd probably be looking at less time. While I was writing my first post, it seems Marcus went to the police instead of to his wife to confess. He admitted to the cops about being found with a married woman. But he apparently managed to get some sympathy from the police. The deputy that took his statements was one of the sheriffs who showed up to arrest me the next day. Everything went peacefully with that as I didn't resist in the least. In hindsight I think getting me charged was a preemptive strike by Marcus. Because the judge at my arraignment forbade me from having any contact with Marcus or any of his family members. So, I have yet to contact his wife in any way, shape, or form. But by getting me arrested he accomplished a couple of other things. I informed my job of the charges, which would not allow me to leave the state. They went into panic mode because my job is so specialized. It took them 2 weeks to find someone with the same training and experience, but now I'm looking for a job. That certainly threw a kink into getting lawyers. Before I could even think about getting a divorce attorney, I had to focus on a defense attorney. I was served divorce papers 2 days ago. It's apparent my wife is going to try and take me for everything. But she and I have not talked since that night. She has called and texted, but I haven't read, answered, or responded to anything. I fucking hate her guts. I'm never getting over this. I'm not going to be able to move on. I'm not getting anything close to my life back. I've been staying with my parents. They have been awesome and very supportive. But this situation I've gotten myself into, there isn't much anyone can say. Right now, everyone is so focused on the criminal charges I'm facing and not going to jail. The fact I've lost my wife and future has been put on hold, so to speak. Even after getting divorce papers. I've heard my mom crying for me in private. This is destroying my parents as well. They shouldn't be worrying their son will be spending time behind bars. They should be focused on their retirement and enjoying life. I guess I haven't just ruined my own life. But I'll be damned if someone didn't destroy mine. I spend most days holed up in my childhood room waiting for the other shoe to drop. I have reason to believe that my wife is assisting Marcus or the police against me in criminal court. She sure as hell isn't obstructing anyone, that's for sure. Again, I haven't talked to her, so I don't know what is going on in her head. But if she hates me, for what I don't know, as much as I hate her, I guess she's giving me what I deserve. I'm sorry I can't give a better update. Those who always fall in the leave and divorce them camp will be happy to know that will be happening come hell or high water. I just don't know if I will be doing it as a free man or if it will happen while I am behind bars finishing my sentence. I was talking with my cousin the other night and he said something to the effect about when I start dating again. He meant nothing by it. But it was just so, I can't even explain it. Like, forget what my wife did to me and ever having trust in any woman again, I haven't even started to ponder that. And then it occurred to me if worst comes to worst my next date could be with some guy named Jerome. My lawyer is trying to actually win my case, not just keep me out of jail. I appreciate that and that is what I need to happen. But I can't do prison. If I am convicted, even without jail time, my career is done for. But prison, I can't endure. I have been in shock since the moment I turned the lights on and saw my wife laying naked on top of another man. This whole incident just keeps getting worse and worse. I feel like I'm watching a movie but can't stop even though I'm disgusted. This sounded a lot clearer in my head that it looks typed out. But that was the best I could do under the circumstances. My life is utter hell right now, and cheating is 100% to blame. Edit, there are several responses in the comment section to questions and comments. I don't have it in me to type all of that out several times. Someone will provide an update in a month or two. If it's me then great, if not things got ugly and are only getting uglier. Marriage Demolition, update I will try and explain what has happened since my update even though I know I will give incorrect legal terms and words in the process. But from what I was told, it is a federal law for the prosecution and defense to present all evidence and potential witnesses before a trial. There was a reason my lawyer kept the footage of my STBXW and Marcus cheating a secret. It wasn't like a trial, more like a hearing, but there was a judge presiding. My lawyer actually introduced a USB drive as the evidence but had the footage on a tablet. Long story short, Marcus either didn't know I had proof or forgot I had told him. I did remember putting my phone away after recording them before I pulled my gun. So, he and my wife never saw a phone. He refused to testify, and the charges were dropped. His father is a retired judge and he a business owner. He couldn't have that entered into evidence and seen by the public from a trial with his name attached to it. So, I truly dodged a bullet. My lawyer is almost certain she could have gotten a jury to find me not guilty. But no charges or trial is even better. Marcus left the courtroom before I was allowed to go. As soon as I turned my phone on, I got notifications about missed texts and calls from a random number I assumed to be my wife. I didn't respond to anything because I didn't read or listen to anything. But I was sure she'd just found out I had video evidence. She was either trying to make peace or war. Her lawyer could talk to my lawyer. And no, I still have not communicated with her in any way, shape, or form. The moment I saw her cheating on me she was dead to me. If I want to talk to the dead, I'll have a seance. I have a very reputable divorce attorney and he was the person I was first trying to call after charges were dropped. Obviously, the footage will be needed in divorce court. So, I can't go show it to Marcus' wife. Not yet anyway. I'd think she'd hear about things through the grapevine, but who knows. He probably made some sort of preemptive strike and told his wife something just in case. But I highly doubt he made a full confession. My parents were relieved. I called them on vacation to tell them the good, unexpected news. We all were expecting it to go to trial. Nobody truly expected that hearing to end things on the criminal front. Now I focus on divorce and my lawyer has my wife filed divorce paperwork. It's not going to be the cakewalk my STBXW thought it would be. As of right now she is living in the house. That puts me at a disadvantage, but my lawyer is hoping to negate that with some filed paperwork. I do not want to move back into that house. I'd never want to live there after witnessing what I saw. Plus, I heard it needs some repairs and new appliances. But honestly, I don't want her to have it either. With housing prices through the roof, I want it sold outright as well as the land. She shouldn't get it if for no other reason being the one who broke up the marriage. If she wanted to keep living there, she should have kept her legs closed. Actions have consequences, and if she thinks getting some strange tea is worth losing her house over, she really shouldn't be in real estate. On the job front, I plan to use this coming week to either get my old job back or get a new job. I don't want to knock anyone out of a job, especially in such a specialized field. But I have to pay lawyers to do things I never wanted to now. I know whoever replaced me cannot have the experience and knowledge I do in addition to knowing the team. I don't think I will be unemployed either way for very long. I never thought I'd say I'll be glad to get back to work. But the last few months haven't been a vacation. I just need something to focus on now besides the divorce. And I want to try and forget that ducked up night. I'm probably lucky I'm not dead, and I'm very lucky I'm not behind bars. But the whole situation just pisses me off. Not just the money pissed away on legal fees. The wasted time, the words I believed I now know are lies, the deception. I never knew her, I couldn't have. And to think I behaved like an idiot over someone I never knew is disturbing. I mean, if you want to go postal and beat the hell out of someone over a worthy, loyal, loving woman, have at it. But to go bat sh loco over someone that lied and never cared. Not worth a single punch, and certainly not worth the gunfire. Learn from my mistake, it isn't worth it. But yeah, if people could just be honest, with themselves and others, that would be great. My STBXW keeps reaching out to communicate. The time to communicate was before she gave any part of herself to another man. I want to start over somewhere not too far away from my parents, but far enough away to not run into my STBXW or her AP. I hate big cities, but small towns have a suckiness all their own. I make great money. Well, I mean I did and will again. Just starting over with new everything after the last couple of months sounds so appealing. I just can't think of anywhere I want to live. I just know now I don't want to live here. I am so glad we didn't have children, or this experience would be far worse. It's such a comfort to be able to ghost her and move on without a child forever connecting anyone. And I love kids. I would still love kids one day. But thank God I didn't have any with a woman that could do that to me. At least I know I can have a life again, a career again. I'm really down on this whole thing called life at the moment. But knowing I have freedom and opportunity gives me hope. I can move on from her as a huge mistake in my life, a tragedy of epic proportions. I know I need therapy after all of this and what I did. I have an appointment scheduled in 2 weeks to start individual counseling. I already know I will get blasted over anger issues, but I need to hear it. And I need someone to help me put my life back together after everything came unhinged. I appreciate the advice given to me here. I appreciate the kind words and even the haters. What I did was ducked up, I admit that. I can only better myself going forward, I can't change who I was in the past. Marriage demolition, final update. I've been pondering for days how to even begin to explain what has happened and where things stand. I owed it to those that have given me good advice since my screw up to give an update. But just writing out what has happened, and all the details and drama, would take way too long. Our lawyers began corresponding. My STBXW's side kept requesting she and I talk, and I kept saying no. Our side tried pushing the negotiations and get the ball rolling on our side. Every time the house and property got mentioned, my lawyer felt they were acting twitchy, whatever that means. But they still wanted to meet face to face and talk, saying it was very important for both of our futures going forward apart or together. I still wanted to say no. But my lawyer pretty much told me I'll have to see her in court eventually and we should meet. They knew we had infidelity evidence and what it was but hadn't seen it. My lawyer wanted to know exactly what they would say and the angle they were playing. I just didn't want to see her or hear her voice. They weren't willing to do a group text, so we met. We met in a conference room at my lawyer's office. I was seated when my wife and her lawyer came in. I wanted my gaze to convey a touch of hate with ample disgust thrown in. She started crying and walking toward me, so apparently it didn't work. I told her to back the F up, which made her cry harder. I began moving back and away from her, which got her to stop coming forward. I'll spare everybody the specifics, but I pretty much cursed her out worse than any human has been cursed out. Before that fateful night, she'd never heard me yell at her. Before that day in the conference room, I'd never cursed at her, not even that horrible night. I let it all out. Every vile thing I had thought about her, every horrible thing I believed about her, and everything I wished would happen to her. Her lawyer was really shocked, mine was just a little shocked, but I told him to expect it when he agreed to the meeting. My wife finally grasped I meant every word and hated her for what she'd done to us, what she'd done to me. Before the meeting ever started, we had to take a 30-minute break to calm down. When we actually did meet, my wife had a request to speak to me without interruption. I couldn't give a word-for-word account of what she said if I tried, so I won't. She started out saying she was extremely sorry for everything that has happened. She wished I would talk to her or answer her texts, but accepted that wasn't going to happen after what I said earlier. Then she went straight into telling me the land we own could be worth a huge amount of money in the not-too-distant future. Apparently, a company I will not name but everyone has heard of might want to purchase a huge amount of land to build on. The deal would be conditional on getting other landowners to sell. And I'm talking about a ton of acreage that the company would be buying up. Our land is in a zone of the country, X number of miles from a power station, X miles from a major highway, airport, water source, etc. It fits all of their qualifications. Then she said we really need to discuss the land because she can't sell it without me. That is when I stopped her. I said, but you could have if I'd gone to prison, couldn't you? It wasn't a question. I knew the answer from her lawyer's expression. Then she came out saying she told Marcus not to press charges. Fuck me running, I wanted to hit someone. But I can't hit a woman and my lawyer would sue me. I didn't care if they kept communicating after that night. But it still pissed me off. She said they had to stay in contact because he was the person behind the attempted sale. As the agent he stands to make a mint, as the owners we stand to make more. He has government and real estate connections stretching far and wide because of his parents' careers. But when he saw the opportunity to remove me from the equation, he took it. He never showed up anywhere naked, he had clothes in his car, but I didn't know. The cops got a very different story than what actually happened. But I'm not surprised. When I got charged, my wife claimed she wouldn't testify, but she couldn't get me to respond to her. She claimed she was glad I got the charges dropped. That was when I asked if she was glad before she found out I had recorded her and Marcus. She didn't answer. I let her and her lawyer see the footage I'd taken by passing them my phone. I don't think my lawyer wanted me to show it. But they knew it existed and I couldn't show it to anyone else yet. I told her that Marcus' wife would see that footage eventually. That's when she told me doing so would be losing out on a ton of money I'd never earn working my job. I asked if that was why she cheated, money, greed? I the not, she actually told me she cheated for us. The argument that ensued over that comment alone went on for over an hour. We took a lunch break, and I went off to eat alone for an hour just to get away from everyone. In one very odd way she'd given me good news, but it was gift wrapped in SH. The lawyers loved hearing of the potential sale of land. They knew we'd find out about it eventually and any potential immediate sale I would have to agree to, so they spilled. I can nix the whole deal if I choose to. It won't cost Marcus a cent yet, but it would keep me from making a lot of money. But I can't make a lot of money unless my STBXW makes a lot of money too. When I went back to the meeting, my wife pretty much explained how all of this got started. She was doing one of those parade of home showings. Marcus' agency was showing 2 of the homes. They knew who each other were from traveling in the same circles. But he approached her and asked if we were happy living where we were. From there he explained he knew an agent specialized in business, manufacturing sites. He explained his idea and I guess she saw dollar signs. Marcus, A trusted POS in our area could probably buy up the land from locals much easier than someone they never met. The two agents working together could easily buy low and sell high. The deal couldn't be made without us, due to the positioning of our land. Marcus and my wife got involved talking to locals and planning things out. Then they got involved physically. So, 6 months before I knew my marriage had ended, it ended. She swore the two of them just got caught up in their excitement over the money. She said it didn't mean anything, it was just sex. I wanted to try and break my recent world cursing record, but I tried to not explode. I asked if she and that POS had used condoms. She said they did at first, but because she was on the pill, well, 6 days, 6 effing days. I shouted before calling her a disgusting worthless WH. She asked what I was talking about, so I proceeded to explain that when a man orgasms inside a woman, that's how long jizz can stay inside her. I really wanted to vomit thinking about what she subjected me to. I asked how she'd like me go to a prostitute, stick my fingers inside, and then put them in her mouth. Yes, it's disgusting. But it's the equivalent of what she did. She tried to claim she took showers. I told her unless she was able to stand on her head, spread her legs to rinse out, she's a nasty SL. And she wondered why I looked at her with a revolted expression. It's because I'm revolted. She's disgusting and subjected me against my will to SH. I don't even want to think about it. That isn't even taking into consideration things she did with her mouth. Marcus can have the tramp, she's infected with his scuzz now. But I had to get out of there. I was no longer good for the rest of the day. I went and got drunk for the first time since my after party at my dad's cabin. Part of me should be really happy. And I am. I know if things work out, I'll be able to pay my lawyers in full, repay my parents tenfold, and have a huge amount of money to start over almost anywhere. But the BS I've had to agree to in order to get that money makes me sicker than my wife. 3 damn lawyers wrote up an agreement, our 2 lawyers wrote up an even split divorce. We cannot divorce until the land sells, or the deal falls through, but the divorce will go through and my marriage is over. It isn't like I'm in some hurry to be single so I can marry again. I ducking ghosted her really well despite my unfortunate marriage status. It isn't like I have to see or talk to the immoral Jezebel. But it does bother me to still have any tie with her in any way. I cannot contact Marcus' wife, not now or in the future. I cannot show the footage of my wife to her parents or family. But she has told them we are divorcing and did admit to having an affair. Either way, I got my job back and started next week at a new site. There's talk of having the charges Marcus brought against me sealed from record or something. But my record is clean, thank God. I'm still coming to grips with her excuses and her attitude about those excuses. Granted, I would be gone 10 days at a time. At no point did I suspect anything, and our sex life remained constant. I wish it hadn't now. At least the poor sobs in dead bedrooms don't have to worry about swapping spit with a stranger. Her putting her tongue in his mouth or anywhere else and kissing me was the equivalent of letting a stranger spit in my mouth against my will. But sick cheating trash like my wife and Marcus don't seem to grasp that. I can only imagine Marcus' sex life with his wife continued during the affair. I really do wonder if she has any idea she went down on my wife by proxy at some point. Knowing what I know now, I'm glad I punched Marcus in the mouth. Still glad I didn't kill them, or myself. But they are both disgusting. Like liquor hobo's ass in an alley on a pile of garbage nasty. Humans just disgust me now. How she could willingly give her body to 2 different men back and forth is beyond my comprehension. I had many opportunities to cheat over the years but didn't for many reasons, loyalty being first and foremost. But the idea of effing someone I don't know, who could have just been with any number of other people very recently, that's just insane. Condoms be damned. Those things break, and don't protect from everything. There really is no safe sex except monogamy. But it only works when both people are faithful and haven't effed half the East Coast. I could have come out far, far worse than I should if things go right. But we're definitely looking at next year before things can get rolling. I'll work like I've done for years, but I won't have any place to come home to. She can stay in the house until the sale and pays all costs. The house will be demolished so nobody will live there after the sale. The majority of our land is undeveloped. There is no way in hell to move the house out and miles away. When I'm needed to sign paperwork, I'll be given notice and I'll show up to sign. Then our roads part ways faster than my wife's legs for a $100 bill and I can move on with cash in hand. But she ruined me. And it's not effing fair. She cheapened me just by being associated with me. She revealed a truth I didn't want to know. Because it all goes back to the first comment on my very first post. I know not every woman is like my wife. I can vouch and say not every guy is a pos like Marcus. But I'll be damned if those people don't F it up for the rest of us. Why does it seem two loyal people with a great bond never meet? Almost every post on here is about a nice guy, great girl who got involved with a whore, man whore, and the consequences of that bad decision. Forget being able to trust again. I can't get past the idea of ever wanting to trust anyone like that again. Nobody is worth what she put me through. And she sure as hell wasn't. It pisses me off he's going to get away with it. I guess the world will have to wait and see if karma can scare him like I did. I can't really see any reason for another update. She and I will divorce. Money will be deposited in my account and her account. And I will never see or speak to her again. That's how it will end either way. It's just on hold indefinitely. I want to thank those that gave me advice, told me to keep my mouth shut and urged me to get lawyers. To those that told me to stay strong, I appreciate you. To those that felt I should eat a bullet, go eat a hobo. I will wait a day or two after posting to respond to a few comments, then I'll probably fade away. I wish healing for all of you who have been cheated on, just as I wish it upon myself. Until then. Final edit, this will be my last comment to the thread. I appreciate those that have had my back. I also appreciate the people that gave me a kick in the ass. To the haters, I support your right to do so, just know I won't be losing any sleep over it. As things stand right now, an April or May sale of the land is most likely. The industrial real estate agent has cleared a lot of the hurdles the company would have to jump through to buy the land. No idea on when clearing and building would start. But I will have my money by that time and won't care. So it is fast-tracked as much as can possibly be done. My wife still calls or texts occasionally, but I don't answer, read or respond. I don't believe she gives a damn about me, nor did she ever. Just giving your body to random people for their gratification is something alien to me. The fact she has the ability to do that with her body disgusts me, and I want no part of her or anyone like her. The fact I value her body more than she actually does truly saddens me. But whatever. I am done with relationships anyway. There is no way in hell I could bring a child into this world with any woman due to my wife's actions. I do want kids. But after the land sale I may in fact go the surrogate route. After her infidelity, the only thing my wife could possibly bring to the table is children. Women don't need men for kids now, and I sure don't need another unfaithful, disloyal wife to do it. And at least I'll know my children are being raised morally and ethically. My ex-wife has neither of those things. And with her actions she proved she can never be a good wife, she proved she would be a horrible mother. God help any child that WH brings to this world. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night. Wherever you are.